Hello and welcome to my kitchen, soon to be a new kitchen. Today I'm going to be cooking a shepherd's pie. I'm going to be cooking it for my children and for my wife the way that I've always cooked it and the way that they love. Every time I do a shepherd's pie, they just keep asking for more. Every time we buy one from the shop, they're not so keen on it. So today, without further ado, let's get on with it. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is get the mince, and I happen to be using a 5% fat mince, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it into my frying pan and I'm going to simmer it until golden brown. There's the pan. There's the mince. Not to forget to take off the paper. So turn the oven on to a high heat. A nice high heat, and then chop it up with the spatch, just like so. Once it's chopped, leave it till it goes golden brown. While that's going golden brown, you may as well prep the carrots, prep the peas, the potatoes, and everything else that needs to be doing. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to prep the carrots. I'm going to be using 3 carrots. You've got 1, 2, and then I'm going to use a little bitty baby one. And then once they're peeled and cut up into little discs, I will add them a little bit later on. So that's the carrots cut up into little discs, soon to be added into the mince, but not just yet. Now back over to the mince, because you don't want to be overcooking it. You've got to keep one eye on that and one eye on what you're prepping. And as you can see, it is cooking nicely. It's got brown, it's got pink, it's still cooking, it's still going through, but you can also see a build up of fat. Now some people like to keep that fat in there when they cook it. Me, I don't. I will be getting rid of that fat and hopefully having the driest of mince as possible. So now that it's brown as enough as I want it to be, I'm going to now drain all that fat off into a bowl and discard it. So that's all the fat drained. Now it's leaving that, so now there is absolutely minimal amount of fat in there that I like. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it down to a low heat and just let that simmer just that little bit, keeping an eye, keep turning it over because I don't want any of the mince underneath to burn. So now that's exactly where I want it to be. Minimal fat. I'm going to add now some water, just like that. And I probably will add 2 cups, just to let it sort of simmer and cook slowly. So once the water's added, just give it a little mix, just like so. And then just leave it to simmer because the vegetables will be going in there shortly. So what I want to do is I want to let that boil down just a little bit because I don't want too much water in there when it comes to adding the gravy and then obviously my vegetables. And the reason I want to put my vegetables in late as possible is because they tend to lose colour if I put them in too early, and when you actually come to dishing it up they look a bit less vibrant. I like my vegetables vibrant. So while we're waiting that to simmer down, I'm going to prep the potatoes. Okay, so the potatoes I'm using here are British King Edward potatoes. I'm going to be using this amount of potatoes. It might not be quite enough, or it might be too many, I don't know. But there's nothing wrong with that. So I'm going to peel these potatoes. I've only tried these potatoes once before and they were delicious then, and hopefully they're going to be delicious now. And I'm going to peel those potatoes and place them into a pan of water. Okay, so once they're peeled and cut, we can now add them to the pan. Just like so. Then place the pan onto the hob, turning on the hob onto a medium sort of heat, and let that heat up slowly and boil until the potatoes become soft. I don't want to boil the potatoes too quickly because once I've prepped and did everything to the mince, I want the mince to cool down slightly so that they form a little bit of a fatty crust on the top so that when I put the potato on, it won't sink. But as I'm running out of time, I might have to just boycott that decision. Right, so what I'm actually going to do now is I'm going to turn up the heat to its fullest, because I want that water to boil down pretty quickly, because I want to be able to finish it off, put it into its glass jar, and let that cool down before the mashed potato goes on the top. While that's simmering, I think it's time for a cup of coffee. Okay, so now the water I feel is boiled down enough, ready for me to add the gravy. I'm just using standard Bisto gravy roast for this. Nothing too fancy. Okay, so I'm just going to sprinkle some gravy, like so, and then mix it in. Okay, so now that it's all mixed and it's thickened up slightly, I've turned the heat right back down, and now is the time to add in my vegetables. First goes the carrots, then goes the peas, if they come out the bowl, that is. Now just let that simmer for a few minutes. If it does tend to dry out, just add a bit more water and maybe a bit more gravy just to give it a bit more thickness, and again we have to wait. Now I bet you've noticed that I haven't put in any onions, salt or pepper. Now that's because my kids are going to be eating this and they don't like onions, salt or pepper, so I'm going to be cooking it so that I know for a fact that when it goes onto their plate, it gets eaten. So while we're waiting for that, what we can do is we can go ahead and we can grate some cheese to sprinkle on the top. And there's my cheese all prepped and ready to go. Okay, it's been about 10 minutes since I added the vegetables. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to transfer it from the pan to the bowl. Just look at that consistency. Absolutely beautiful. My children are going to absolutely love this. Okay, so what I tend to do is just flatten it out. Don't need to, but I'm flattening it out. Leave it to cool. Okay, so my potatoes are actually ready to mash now, but my mince hasn't quite cooled down enough. But hopefully if I can mash the potatoes to a really nice paste, it will sit on top. So, here we go. Right, time to turn off the potatoes and drain the water. Right, so that's the water drained. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some butter and some milk and then give it a really good mix until it's really soft. Because I need it to be soft to go onto there. As you can see, it's not quite, still very, very runny actually. I might actually have to add a tiny bit of gravy just to thicken it up. But let's see. I've added a little bit of gravy. and it's thickened up a little bit. Might have thickened up just enough, but that's how it's going to be. I'm going to now mash this with this. As you can see, I've put in some butter and some milk, ready to be mashed. Now it's mashed, I'm now going to place it onto my mince. And there you have it, mashed potato on the top. Haven't quite finished yet, we've still got the cheese to go. And as you noticed, that because it wasn't quite cold enough, it was still a bit runny in places. So now for the cheese. And there we have it, one completed cottage pie. There's a patch there without any cheese on it because my daughter doesn't like cheese, so I always make her a bit without. And as you can see, it doesn't look restaurant quality because I'm not designing it to make it look like restaurant quality. I'm not Gordon Ramsay or Jamie Oliver. All I know that when I put this on my kids' plate, they will devour everything. If you're still watching this video, thank you very much for being with me for this whole journey. There's only one more thing to do, and that is to put it in the oven for another 40-45 minutes, just sort of warm it up through, finish cooking it all off, just before it goes onto their plate. It's going to go into the fridge for now. And if there is anything else that you want me to, if there's anything you want me to cook, not anything else, because you haven't asked for this, if there's anything you want me to cook and I can, then just leave it in the comments. Bye!